The Christian Association for Survivors of Suicide Loss is pleased to present our podcast, Reaching for Hope with Joy Osborne. Let's join Joy and her guests as they discuss topics of relevance for emotional and spiritual wellness.
Hello listeners, I am your host and I am joined with my dear friends Kim and Beth. And today we'll be discussing bullying and cyberbullying and the impact it has on people. So welcome. I'm excited to talk about this topic today because I've heard about it, but I haven't learned a lot about it until recently. So I'm glad that we're talking about it, discussing this, because there's a lot of information that I wasn't aware of, and I'm not sure if our listeners are aware of it as well. So what is cyberbullying?
A simple definition of bullying would be using superior strength or power to intimidate people. Bullies are those who prey on people they perceive as weaker and threaten them with harm or actually administer harm in order to get their own way.
Wow.
And cyberbullying more specifically includes sending, posting, or sharing negative, harmful, false, or mean content about someone else over a digital device, such as a cell phone, computer, or tablet. It can include sharing personal or private information about someone else, which causes embarrassment or humiliation. And in some cases, cyberbullying may cross the line into unlawful or criminal behavior, which I wasn't aware of.
I didn't know that either until I was looking up information about this, and I didn't realize that every state has cyberbullying and bullying laws that some have financial impacts, some could be a misdemeanor. So it's very important that people understand that they need to be aware of the impact of cyberbullying and bullying.
Right.
When I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, but I was bullied, and I was bullied because I didn't look a certain way and the clothes I wore. It was very, very hurtful.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but 38% of people experience cyberbullying on social media platforms daily.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Foreign national students experience more cyberbullying than their local-born counterparts.
Gee, I didn't realize that either.
Yep. Cyberbullying is the number one concern for school staff, and 25% of the students who are cyberbullied turn to self-harm.
Oh, that is amazing. That is very sad. I read something also that girls are 1.3 times to be bullied than boys. The CDC mentioned that. I'm like, wow. And I didn't know if you knew this or not, but 49% of LGBTQ students have experienced cyberbullying as well. That's sad. And you should be alarmed by all these statistics, regardless of age, gender, and such. I also read that the top 2 reasons why people are cyberbullied is appearance. That's one of the things I ran into, was bullied as a child years ago. Academic achievement and intelligence is the second. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Why would people pick on people that are smart?
Yeah, as a kid, I was, I did great in school, but then I felt like people made fun of me. So then I stopped trying so hard in school because of it.
That's very sad.
Yeah.
Well, I wish I could say for me, I handled it well. I actually got silent, which is really surprising, and probably you guys don't believe it because I love to talk, but I became a little quiet around people because I didn't know how to handle it. And so I'm glad we're going to be talking about how can we handle things, what tips and things that we can implement for ourselves and for other people to know. I know, Kim, you have been researching this. What did you find out for some tips for parents and guardians?
A great resource that I found was on cybersmile.org. So they have a wealth of information for parents, for children. They also provide support advisors. If you're being bullied, you can contact them and they can help you. Anything regarding cyberbullying, that's a great resource. It's cybersmile.org. And they have some of the things that I wanted to talk about was signs that your child is being cyberbullied.
Yeah,
so some of the things to look out for is your child suddenly spending noticeably more or less time on social media, online gaming, or on their mobile phone? After using their mobile phone, console, or computer, does your child become annoyed, seem stressed, or look flustered and confused? Has your child asked you about closing down social media accounts or about security features such as blocking other account holders or certain phone numbers? Or have social media accounts been shut down or have new ones appeared? Has your child reduced their usual social activities such as going out shopping or hanging out with their friends? Has there been an increase in headaches headaches or stomach upsets or other ailments?
Wow.
Is your child increasingly late for school or out sick?
Goodness.
Has there been a decline in the standard of schoolwork? Does your child suddenly act secretively when using their devices? Has your child started to put themselves down verbally or show other signs of low self-esteem? Has your child recently broken up with a girlfriend or boyfriend?
I've heard that a lot. Yeah.
Or is your child having trouble sleeping or suffering from a sudden loss of appetite? Or is your child having excessive mood swings? So these are all signs to look out for. If you see these signs in your child, there's, a possibility that they are being cyberbullied.
So what can parents do if they notice these things, some of these things? Now, it's one-off maybe, but if you run into this, I would still want to talk to your child and find out where they are.
Exactly. And communication is the key. And it'd be great to have a great line of communication open with your child so that they feel comfortable speaking to you freely without fear of losing their devices and their internet privileges. So it's important to build a strong relationship with your child where they feel comfortable sharing their online problems with you, because it's more likely you'll be able to help them with any of these problems that may occur before they escalate to the point where your child cannot see a way out of the situation.
I had heard that some kids don't communicate because they don't feel safe, or your parents might say, well, get over it, toughen up and things like that. So
exactly. And that's some of the things that on the cybersmile.org website, they give you tips on how to respond and help your child through it if they are being cyberbullied.
Oh, good.
Like, first of all, they say do not overreact, as this may make your child back off and deter them from confiding in you again.
Oh, wow. That's important.
They say to encourage your child to take a break from their devices and social media so that you can work together to try to come up with a solution and next steps on how to deal with it.
I like that, because that to me engages the child. It's not like mom or dad or the guardian is saying, you have to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. It's they're taking part in, I think that'll be, that kind of thing. So I think that's great advice.
Right. And that way they feel comfortable with the next steps too. And they also feel like someone's on their side. So they said it's good to provide a distraction, like take them out for ice cream or something like that, something that they like. And
I like that.
And
who wouldn't like ice cream?
And encourage your child to explain the situation in detail so that you have a clear understanding of exactly what's going on, so you know what you're dealing with.
That's good.
And reassure your child that you're on their side and that you will work with them to deal with it. And then encourage your child to find a way to resolve the issue themselves before you step in and take over.
I don't know about you guys, but in my era, what I heard a lot of people say was people would tell their children, well, just go hit them and don't let them talk to you. And it's a very violent way to talk. And a lot were like, I'm going to say men, may not all have been men, but saying to their child or maybe a son, well, you got to stand up for your rights and you got to do this. It's as if it was a retaliation back to the child, where I like what you said, Kim, how to resolve it. So with the parents working with the child on what's the best way to resolve when it doesn't come into a violent, vocal, abusive type environment, which that's why I like what you said. Have you guys ever experienced this with your children or with yourselves over the years?
Recently, our granddaughter has experienced not only bullying at school, but cyberbullying as well. She's been bullied by another student, and the student had a plan and kind of had all of her friends video the fight that happened, and the next day it was all over the school social media. And we didn't know until we started researching this how to handle it. We took the phone away. She hasn't had her phone since the end of last year, and now she's into 7th grade, and I'm not sure if I'm ready to give it back to her just because of all the social media things that are out there, but she still finds a way to get on it.
So how old is she?
She's 12.
Okay, that is the age that the most children are bullied.
Yeah.
It's like 33% of elementary students. At least that's what I read.
Right. And also 9% of the students ages 12 to 17 admit they've pretended to be someone else online.
Wow.
And public schools were 3/4 or more of students are minorities report that they're at least cyberbullied. And that cyberbullying is one of the number one online safety concerns for teachers.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Which I think is why this year in Florida, the kids are not allowed to have their cell phones in school. Part of it is so that they can't be videotaping things that happen, and because that's one of the things, like you said, it goes viral. And so at least it's nice to know that steps are being taken to help
that's good.
detour cyberbullying.
Yeah, and like the other thing here, it says 1 in 5 students report they've skipped school because they've been cyberbullied.
Oh my.
So
that's alarming. Should be alarming for parents, because where are they going if they're not in school and the parents don't know where they are?
Right.
That's,
And, this one statistic even says that bullying in school happens most often during 6th grade. 29% of the incidents happen then. It's just alarming what we don't know. And when you find it out, you're just blown away by the information.
yeah, and that's why I'm glad we're able to share this information, because I know there's a lot of people who do not know or are not aware at this time, and that we're able to at least bring light to this. So that's really good. I really would love to know, what does the Bible say about bullying? Have there been bullies? And how was it handled? And how we as Christians should handle these types of things if we're bullied or we're a bullier even.
Right.
How do we handle these things? So I know, Kim, you've done a lot of research on this.
I've done some research
I'm
on
curious.
this, yeah. And obviously, bullying is not godly. We're not supposed to bully other people, and Christians are called to love others and to look out for those who are weaker and which includes those who are being bullied.
Right.
Actual examples in the Bible, there wasn't technology
back
in Bible days, so there was, really no cyberbullying, but there are examples of bullies in the Bible, and classic examples, obviously Jesus. He was bullied. His enemies wanted to find any reason to harass him and to find anything. They were always looking to catch him doing something wrong.
Well, and the thing about it was, remember, Jesus was different. He had a different way of looking at things.
Yes.
He was one of love and not of violence.
Correct.
So I'm not surprised. And so when there's somebody who totally different, it's like, wait a minute. Because remember the things I was sharing, the people who are bullied, appearance. Now, he may not have been different appearance-wise, but if we can, maybe a stretch of his intellect, what he had said, angered predominantly.
And they felt threatened by it.
Yeah.
So, and that's, one of the descriptions of being a bully. Sometimes they feel threatened or jealous of the other person, and which causes them to act the way they do.
And how did Jesus respond to them?
In love, and the Bible calls us to love one another, even our enemies, which is, it's not always an easy thing to do.
He says, turn the other cheek.
Turn the other cheek, yes.
Right. So who else, Kim, did you find in the Bible that experienced bullying?
Daniel was another example.
That's true. The story of Daniel being that the people were jealous of his position. He was put in type of authority that others probably didn't like, and they were trying to come against his religion.
Right.
And how did he handle it? Prayer.
He went to pray.
Very strong in the Lord. Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, couldn't we look at maybe Joseph's life? Wasn't he bullied by his brothers?
Yes.
That's a good one. Yeah, definitely. And he didn't understand. Now, granted, there's a whole sermon we could go on, a whole podcast we could do on Joseph, because there's so much there, but that's true.
Right.
Selling him into slavery, actually deceiving the father that his son was dead. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that's it. It was within his own family.
Within his own family.
That's good. Yeah.
And that's but it just shows you, those are great examples that we should be going to the Lord in prayer over these things. We shouldn't be retaliating. We shouldn't be seeking revenge, things like that. I was looking on gotquestions.org.
Great site.
And, they definitely suggest not retaliating and not seeking revenge. That's how Jesus would handle it.
Definitely.
But they did say that now if you are in an abusive relationship, like if they are trying to cause physical harm to you, that it is okay to protect yourself. And they said, even though we are called to be loving and forgiving, it doesn't mean that we need to be permissive of evil.
Oh, that's good.
And there are examples in the Bible of self-defense. For instance, one example is in the book of Esther. The Jews were allowed to fight and defend themselves against the murderous attacks of the Persians. And then another example is found in Nehemiah 4. where the Israelites armed themselves for protection when they rebuilt the wall around Jerusalem. Right. So their enemies threatened to kill them and put an end to their work, but they were ready to defend themselves in the event of an attack. So, you're not supposed to just sit and let somebody beat you to death or cause, or sexual harm.
Right. That's true.
But
that's good. Because people need to realize that, yes, we need to turn the other cheek. If possible, walk away from it. But when they come at you, and you got to be able to protect yourself. Now, I'm not saying guns and knives. That's not what we're proponent. We're not proponents of any violence whatsoever.
Right.
But being able to get out of that situation, to be able to be in a safe place is the ultimate goal for kids, both physically and emotionally.
Right.
Right.
So we've been talking a lot of our conversation about adults and what they can do, and some things about children. Do you think adults can be bullies?
Oh, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's something called a Karen. Okay. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this. And this is somebody who acts out and is really obnoxious. And honestly, a very bad example of how they should handle things. I've seen people that were Karens actually in one of the places around where we live. And it was an elderly woman that was being bullied by a younger woman over a parking space. So we have to really check ourselves. When we get in these positions, we have to, check our own emotions. We don't need to be the ones who are bullying others. And really, what does it benefit?
Right.
Who's benefiting? What example is that to your children? You get arrested for bullying. I mean, that's not a good example, especially as Christians and people overall. But as Christians, we're to be the example. Even if we have children who are bullied by other children, how are we reacting? How should we react to that?
When our granddaughter was being bullied, we were asked whether we wanted to pursue charges against the young lady who bullied her, and we thought long and hard about it. We had heard from the school that this wasn't the first time it had happened with this young woman. So we thought, maybe we do pursue charges so she learns something from it. We talked to them and said, we'd also want there to be, some kindness in the matter. The state had picked it up, and there was certain consequences that she had to go to, teen court. So when I spoke to the state's attorney, I had asked that, she learned something from it. It's not just a punishment, but she understand and get counseling for her own self, because it's a self-esteem issue in my mind that, these young girls bully each other. They're struggling with their own self-esteem at adolescence. So I'd ask that, the young woman get some help rather than just serve a community service sentence.
Yeah. That's back to what I was mentioning earlier, that the states have laws. And even, kids don't realize that they can be held accountable, and parents aren't realizing that there might be financial implications if you have to go to court and other things. So we don't want children to get into a place, especially at a young age, where there's something on their record, but we do want them to have help.
Right.
I read something where it said bullies tend to come from, I'm not saying all parents did this, some of them come from being bullied at home, or their parents were bullied, and then therefore they're taking bullying out on their children. That's another discussion we can have, but it's also a reality, and that the children need help.
And that's another point made by gotquestions.org. When I was looking at that website, I found a very interesting fact on there that it's, well, not fact, but I liked your response, how you responded with your granddaughter, because it said that we should also consider our thoughts and attitudes towards bullies. They went on to say that it's easy to demonize bullies and think of them as hateful people. However, this is not a godly attitude. And they said, every single one of us is a sinner, and we all need salvation in Jesus. So at the very least, we should pray that the bully would have a change of heart and know God's salvation. And they did mention that many times they act out the way they do because of their own hurt. Perhaps they were bullied, or they feel insecure. So, but this really spoke to me personally, because at one time, several years ago, I was harassed and I was cyberbullied, and all these lies were spread about me. It was all over social media. It was my employer was being contacted, and so I felt a whole range of emotions. I felt hurt. I felt angry. I felt fear and hate and anxiety during this time. And initially I wanted revenge. I wanted this person to hurt as much as they were hurting me. But I knew I couldn't control this person. And I ended up just, falling to my knees and praying. I was praying that God would change this person's heart and to stop the attacks. And what's interesting is that during the process, God ended up changing my heart. And, it took all those feelings and emotions away, and He brought me peace. And He showed me that I need to have compassion towards this person, that this person was really hurting, and to forgive this person. And, God fought all my battles for me. And it doesn't condone their behavior in any way, because their behavior is wrong, but it changed my heart and, and how to respond. And I just relied on God during that time. And it's just amazing going back and seeing how He was in that situation, and He did fight my battles, and everything was fine, and He gave me so much peace. So, anyone that's a victim of bullying, I strongly encourage them to go to God with their hurt and, seek reassurance and healing. And
that is wonderful.
Yep, true.
Yeah, great that you brought up that God ministered to you and how it worked through. And this was another adult, right, that was doing this too. Yeah, so it's not just children. Yeah. It's adults that get in this, and there's also laws for that, but I'm so grateful that you worked that through and that you went to God.
Yeah.
That is great. And the peace that you said you had is amazing. That is wonderful. Let's talk about apps for a minute. The first one is TikTok. It's an app for users to create, share, and watch short videos. I don't know if you guys have seen any TikTok videos. I have, but I don't use it at this time.
I look at them a little when somebody says, oh, check this out on TikTok, or I sent you a TikTok video. Not something I go to every day, because I think that too much time is spent on scrolling anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I have a little bit of experience on it, but I know my son, he's on it all the time.
Oh, wow.
When he's not gaming, he's on TikTok.
Oh, I see.
Did you know that gaming sites can be places to be bullied?
I just recently learned that in my research. I didn't even realize.
I didn't either. Same thing. This has really opened up my eyes to where bullying happens.
Right. It's amazing. I never would have thought that either.
Right.
Well, with TikTok, it's easy a way to connect with others through trends and connect interactions with them. And the minimum age on this app is 13. So there's some parental concerns, though, of course. I think there should be on all apps. I think parents should understand the apps their kids are using, or what they could have access to, and how they can get involved in maybe some parental controls. So for the parental concerns, though, for TikTok, they said not all trends are harmless. Some can be dangerous or inappropriate for kids, though, to replicate. Strangers can directly interact with users. That's scary for kids on the app. They can comment, like, and direct message. That's very alarming, in my opinion. There's also been inappropriate language and content on those sites.
Oh, yeah.
We kind of think people should be monitoring that, who own it, but they're not doing that, it seems. And an account is not needed to view the content. Anyone can view videos posted on TikTok, and users may be tempted to take risks to get more likes and followers. Right. So that's really one that needs to be looked at. There's some safety features for this, though. Alerts can be set up to limit the amount of time the kids spend on the app. That's good to know.
Yes.
I think maybe sometimes kids spend too much time on it. I know when I was growing up, the television was our babysitter, and I'm wondering if now maybe some of the parents are using these apps and their computers and such.
I think
or
they
babysitting.
Do. You go anywhere today, and you go into a restaurant, or you go into the mall.
Yeah.
Children as young as 4 and 5 years old are handed a tablet.
That's true.
So
right. I can see on long drives, I've seen where they have them on the back of their seats. I don't know if they still do that now, and they're watching their little shows on that to occupy them instead of us when we were kids. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, it was like Punch Buggy or
I did it. I did it with my daughter on long drives when we'd go up north. Mm-hmm. I had the little portable TV with the built-in DVD player.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And Disney movies. She went Disney movie after Disney movie.
And there's nothing wrong with having some of these things, in my opinion. It's just, how are they using it? What's the precautions? And maybe even how much time you're allowing their children on it, right?
Right.
There's safety features on this app. The alerts can be set up to help limit the time they can spend on the app. There's a restricted mode that filters out inappropriate content. That's a good thing to look at, parents. Accounts can be set up to private, and users under 18 are private by default. Didn't know that either. That's good as well. Direct messaging is disabled for users under 16. I like that. I don't know about you, but I get direct messages recently from people I don't know trying to scam me. So can you imagine with children what's going on?
Oh, absolutely.
You are able to block and report content and users on this app as well. Comments can be turned off on post. I like that because what I like to do sometimes when we post things is I don't need people commenting on it. I want to share with my family and I need to comment. So I like that.
Right.
TikTok has its own community guidelines that prohibit illegal or harmful content. And even though they say that, I know that people try to push the boundaries. So it's good that parents know about these things and to look at what's going on and what their children's setups are. Now, there's a TikTok app safety link that I'm going to be putting on our website as well. It says what parents need to know. So that's a good one.
That sounds like a great resource.
Right.
I know on cybersmile.org, they do have steps in there or information in there for the parents to help set these up on all these different apps and all these, precautionary steps to take.
That's good.
And they also mention, some of the proactive steps to take with your children. So it's a good idea to try to work with them and, give them some freedom along with this, but also explain to them that there are some things that they need to look out for when they are on these social media apps. Yeah. And, one thing that stands out to me is like telling them, if somebody messages you, you never meet these people and strangers in person, and that they have a lot of proactive tips on that cybersmile.org for parents and children to work together on setting up these parameters.
Right. I wanted to add something to that because my husband had something set up with his children when they were young, that if anybody tries to approach you to pick you up or whatever it might be, that there's a code that only the family knows, and they have to say that code or they know it's not anybody the parents has sent to them. So I think that's a great thing to do even today.
I've read that before where parents have done that. I think that's a great idea too. I've never instituted that, but I think that is definitely a great suggestion.
Lives, the other app, or one of the other ones I wanted to talk a little bit about, was Snapchat. It's a photo messaging app sharing private pictures and short videos. I know I have an account. I've used it a little, and I have to be honest with you, it's just not my thing. But, some people like it, kids in particular, I guess, like that. And it's the minimum age on that one is 13 as well. It's an alternate way to connect with friends outside of texting.
We use it. I mean, my girlfriends and I, just the filters. Oh. I need something funny at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's right.
When you've got somebody in a cowboy hat and a mustache, where they turn, your picture into a man. We laugh at one another. So
that's cute.
I mean, we use it.
That's a fun way to use it.
Right.
It is a fun way. And I do that with my stepdaughter as well. I mean, it's fun family time and lots of laughs, but that's the extent of what we use it for.
Yeah, and that's good. There's some parental concerns around Snapchat. Some of them are messages can disappear, which can make it hard to collect evidence if people are bullied or there's inappropriate behavior going on. There's also inappropriate content may appear through Snapchat Discovery feature. That is a news feed of posts from news publishers as well as known people. So they may be getting this inappropriate content, and if it goes away, you're not going to see it, and you just don't know what that has done to them in seeing those things. Strangers can send users a friend request or view story posts if they are public. So it's very important that the settings on that app are reviewed often, because kids, they're savvy. They can go on the websites and they can find out how to change the settings after you have. So I would suggest parents, maybe you might want to work with them on it and ask them, why did you change the setting when we agreed, whatever. However you work through that with your children, I think it's a very important thing to do.
It's good to know that there are parental controls out there. I wished I had known more about them, because we haven't given our granddaughter her phone privilege back, because I'm so concerned about where she can go, what she can see, who can see.
Right, that's good.
But knowing that these parental controls are out there will maybe make my decision to give her access to social media come sooner rather than later.
That's good. There are some safety features for this app as well, and I'll be putting a link on our website so that people can go read all about it. But a few things that I thought were interesting is that a pop-up warning appears if a friend request comes from a user that does not have a mutual friend with the user. That might be good to have. Users can't chat with one another if they are not both friends with each other. That's even more important. You want some stranger coming into a conversation. What I thought was interesting on this one is Snapchat has a family center feature that allows parents to see which friends have sent messages to their child in the last 7 days, see a complete list of friends they have added, and any new friend request, and the ability to report accounts.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's really good to know, because that's my biggest thing, to see who she's been chatting with and, just what the conversations are. And, because some of it's alarming. I'm surprised some of the things I've seen.
It's amazing what's going on there. It's a different world from when we were younger, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a good idea setting up these accounts with your kids, knowing what apps they're using, but to also encourage the child to either have you as the parent or some other relative or a good family friend that's also a friend on there, so they can monitor what's being done and said on their account.
That's great.
Oh, and you hope we're teaching our children to be honest. When that's one of the things, like I said with our grand, again, honesty.
It's good.
Feel free enough and comfortable enough to speak to us honestly about something that she's seen or something that maybe she's concerned about, just to have trust and honest conversation.
That's great. That's what we as Christians should be doing, and it's great, Beth, that you're doing that with your grandchild. That is wonderful. The last app I just wanted to touch on was Instagram. It's another one that a lot of kids are using. As we may or may not know, it's a photo and video sharing platform. Minimum age, once again, is 13 on that one. This one has safety features also, the ability to block unwanted interactions and accounts. I've done that. I've gotten people, if I didn't set my account up as private, because I was setting up for other things I was doing, I accidentally put it to public, and I started getting these requests, and I removed them. That's a feature of this. You can remove followers on Instagram, and you can also block them. So that's good to have as well. You can manage your comments. Posts can be reported for bullying, harassment, or inappropriate content. And accounts, like I said, you want to make them private. If you don't want other people from all over the world able to see your pictures and such, then it's good to set it to a private. I will also have a link on our site for Instagram where parents and others can go out and learn more about safety features and more about the app. Well, ladies, I think we've covered a lot in this podcast. We've talked about apps. We've talked about what cyberbullying is. We've given suggestions on what parents can do. And most importantly, we shared a lot about the Bible.
I agree, Joy. This has been really interesting and informative today. I've learned a lot that I wished I would have known at the beginning of our bullying journey. So I hope our listeners take a lot away from this.
Yes, I agree, Joy. This has just been very enlightening.
Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Kim and Beth, for sharing. If you would like further information on cyberbullying or bullying, visit us at suicideloss.org/resources. That is suicideloss.org/resources. Until next time, let Him restore, support, and strengthen you.
Thank you for listening. For more information, visit www.suicideloss.org. That's suicideloss.org. This presentation was not intended as a substitute for professional care. Please see a counselor or physician for your individual needs. Subscribe and like so that you never miss an episode.